Welcome to today's episode of Words of the Wise. Today I have Chief Bixby from Catawba PD in North Carolina. He has 20 years experience in law enforcement. Welcome to the show, Chief Bixby. Thank you so much for being here.
Good afternoon, Paige. Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure.
Of course, I was hoping that you could maybe give us a little bit of background. How did you get started in law enforcement? Give us some snapshots of the last 20 years.
Sure. So oddly enough, a lot of officers are legacies of their parents or grandparents. I am not, but I'm a legacy, so to speak, of my uncle. As a child, I grew up watching my uncle be a police officer and firefighter, and from what I saw, that I really liked just the lifestyle of it. Became seriously interested in it in high school, so I did some internships at local police departments, and ultimately fell in love with the work and lifestyle and the idea of serving the public and protecting those that can't protect themselves. So I followed up on that. I went to college, my first degree, and then went to what we call basic law enforcement training in North Carolina and became certified, and then started my career officially in the 2005 2006 range. And I've been a police officer ever since then.
That's awesome. I want to talk a little bit because you were also in the fire service.
I was.
Okay. Can you tell maybe, you know, here's I'll tell you a personal story and then I want you to kind of chime into that. So when I first got started working with law enforcement, I was working a free event for a local city, and there was a sergeant from the police academy. He was also working that same event. So he was doing like a hit training class, and I was doing like a mobility cool down afterwards. And he had asked me, "Do you want to teach my recruit class yoga and some mobility stuff?" And I was like, sure. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I had never worked with law enforcement before. And I walked in and he was so excited. He's like, "I'm going to get you introduced to all these people. And then I'll make sure that you're set up because I'm leaving." And I was like, "You're leaving? Where are you going?" And he's like, "I'm going to become a firefighter. Like, I'm out." And I was like, "Okay." And I didn't realize at the time, I mean, this was 8 years ago, but I didn't realize at the time how maybe unique that is for someone to transfer in that way. And he's still a firefighter now today, or as far as I heard. But as I've progressed, through, working with law enforcement and first responders in the wellness space, I hear so many jokes from both sides, right? There's always jokes
Constantly.
on the fire side and on the PD
Yes.
side, and there's this like really funny, like, you know, competitive nature, and it's all like fun loving, right, for the
Yes.
most part. But I'm really interested to hear your perspective on the different cultures between fire and PD.
So that's there's a lot to unpack there, but
Yeah.
give you a little bit of background. I became a volunteer firefighter in 2002 out of high school, and I did it honestly for all the wrong reasons. It wasn't about fighting fires or saving lives. It was about driving fast with a red light in my at the time Ford Explorer. So all the wrong reasons, but my heart was in the right place, I think. So when I transitioned from fire to police, it the we have a reputation of having a brotherhood or sisterhood, and that holds true on both sides of the fence and in every aspect of the words. Um, the cultural thing, we are constantly making fun of each other. It never ends. There's constant competition, just like you would with your siblings. But when we go through bad times, we lean on that.
Mm,
I, for one, have leaned on that several times in my career where we go through trying times. And for me, I could go speak to a therapist all day long, but I'm not going to relate to them because they don't know what I do and they've never done what I do. So I don't feel like they relate to me. I can go talk to a firefighter or a cop and laugh a little bit, and that's all the therapy I need. So that brother and sisterhood is it's the best thing ever, and it's the worst thing ever at the same time.
yeah.
So, but it is one big family, and I think we're a lot like the military, where we can make fun of each other, but we don't allow people or we frown on people that are not in that realm to make fun of us. We get mad at that
Yep.
because other people that don't know just they don't know what we go through. Um, I think that when public perception is that we can be very cold because we can be seen on different scenes laughing and carrying on at very traumatic or dark time in somebody's life, and people might look at us like, "Why are y'all laughing?" Well, unbeknownst to most people, that's a coping mechanism for us. If
Mm,
we don't gather around and make fun of a situation with as many high stress situations we go through, we would probably be in worse shape in mental health than what we are now. So that's a big coping mechanism for us in using humor to cope with stress, essentially. So at the end of the day, it all boils down to brotherhood and sisterhood and both good and bad lights.
I love it. Yeah. And I think it's an important reminder. I think a lot of times when we talk about wellness, I think that we talk about law enforcement wellness or, you know, fire wellness and to understand that you guys are all together. Yes, you have different unique needs, and you have maybe within each organization different cultures or personalities. But I think to remember that as a public safety profession or first responder profession, that you guys are in this together as a team. I really like that reminder. And I also think it's a really interesting point that you make that you guys use humor and laughter as a coping mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever had anyone on this podcast say that in that way before. So I appreciate you bringing that as a perspective because I think anyone from the outside world, to your point, maybe wouldn't understand that. And so to bring a little bit of light and to say, hey, like we're feeling these things are impacting us. It is not lost on you guys that this is a really hard situation, but it's the way that you're able to process and get through those hard situations together.
Right. And to add to that, a lot of times we use dark humor and we make very inappropriate jokes, and it's nothing personal or nothing offensive. It's just our coping mechanism. It's part of the humor of it.
Sure.
So that does help us get through, and it can remind people that we are still human beings. We feel everything everybody else does. We are called to deal with the worst of the worst on everybody's bad day.
Yeah. I've heard a few different times that, maybe the fire service does some things better. I'm going to say quotes when I say better, when it comes to maybe debriefing with each other because there is this opportunity to, after an event, be in the truck together and maybe talking and debriefing some things. You have opportunity for family meals, and you're basically living together at the station. And of course, PD doesn't always have that opportunity. You have a lot of people who are by themselves, going call to call and don't have anyone else to kind of vent or, talk to throughout the day. Did you see that? Do you feel like that's true?
So for us in this area, or in my experience, yes, we have had that, and I think we've evolved from that.
Yeah.
When I started the fire service, yes, we would debrief. We would together have camaraderie with each other and kind of unfold things. And honestly, the fire service, in my experience, was way better at that.
Mm,
Law enforcement caught up with it, so now we are getting better at debriefing. We are getting better at saying, "Hey, if you're struggling with something, it's okay. You
yeah.
don't have to be the tough guy and suck it up and deal with it like we've been taught for years. We can talk about it. We can deal with it. Mental health is a real thing." And for me, I'm thinking, yeah, the fire service is way ahead of us on this. They're way ahead of us, guys. I'm like, we got to do better. So, particularly during my time with our SWAT team, I was there for 10 years. We made the point to debrief
Mm,
on after each situation or mission, as we called them, and we would go over the goods and bads and be honest with each other. It made us better. So, I think that PDs are, in my experience, and the one that I run now, are fostering a culture of mental health awareness. Trying to think of the correct way to say it. A family type environment. We encourage family involvement in this organization. I came from an organization that was very family friendly, so we are doing way better at that. However, I think the fire service is still way ahead of us.
Yeah. Well, I think it's maybe a reminder or it's just proving that talking about stuff is so important and it's so powerful and it's a way for you to be able to have longevity in this career. The more you can talk about it and not perceive that as being weak, perceive that as being normal, You know, it's like you said in the fire service, like maybe that's something that they've always done. Get in the truck, talk about it, go home, have some dinner, talk about it, work
Right.
out together, talk about it, and that's normal. And so if you can start to do that within your life and within your organization, then that's super powerful and can really attribute to overall wellness.
Yes, I would completely agree with that. Excuse me. But yeah, that's I can't agree more with you on that one. And I see it. I can't speak for all agencies across America, of course, but I feel like overall we are doing that, and leadership is doing a lot better to recognize and address the situation.
I agree with that. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how this job impacts you physically. We know that this is a tough job and it can take a toll on your physical body. What experiences have you had with how this job can take a toll on you physically?
Oh wow, that's a very great question. So first, my generation was taught in basic training to have some kind of physical fitness. It was encouraged, and the last 20 years have taught me that it's definitely needed. This job is, we sit most of the time in this job. It's 90% boring and 10% chaos. And for every 90% or 10% chaos situation, you have another 90% boring doing the paperwork to support that. So it's a lot of sitting, and it's a lot of not very strenuous activity, and in turn, our bodies can get very tight. Our muscles get very tight. Um, our sometimes our diet gets is just terrible. To be
Mhm.
quite honest about it, we rely on fast food. So you couple all those things with a terrible diet, and physical fitness part can suffer, especially if you work rotating shifts or night shift. It is super hard to have a decent, healthy diet and be somewhat physically fit, especially if it's not encouraged in your agency. So, what I've seen over the years is it is encouraged. Physical fitness facilities are offered at different agencies, and officers are making the point to work out before or after their shifts to stay in some kind of physical fitness shape, which I think is a great idea.
Yeah.
As far as my personal experiences, I've had torn or pulled hamstrings, and in one incident, I pulled both hamstrings, fell down and broke my elbow in half, which was about 8 months of recovery after a surgery. And it was all due to me not keeping myself physically fit, and my mobility was suffering. It wasn't stretching, wasn't being flexible, wasn't taking care of myself. And I was given a very painful reminder of why that's important. But I think I've learned that lesson. I'm doing way better at that. And I think other officers are too.
Yeah. What are some of the most common injuries that you're seeing within maybe law enforcement as a whole or things that you've seen throughout your career? What are the areas that you're seeing to be the most common areas of injury?
The most common one I see is or what I'll call bad backs, tight muscles, no flexibility, no mobility because of the sedentary nature of the job. I, for one, have a bad back. A lot of chiropractor visits. A lot of officers do that. So bad backs, knees from getting in and out of a car, hips, hip out being out of alignment, backs being out of alignment from the duty belts. A lot of agencies are changing over to what we call weight bearing vests, which helps, but it helps out the hips, but it doesn't help out the overall body because we're still carrying the weight somewhere. We have to,
Hmm.
but we're doing better at addressing that need. But most of them were associated with the uniform and sitting in a car or a vehicle all the time with knees and backs, some shoulders and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think that's what I'm seeing across the board too. It's a lot of lower body stuff. There is upper body stuff. I've had plenty of conversations with people who have three shoulder surgeries or whatever that is, and we know that sitting sitting is tough.
It
Sedentary
is.
lifestyle is tough, and it's tough on your whole body. And so I'm seeing it through all different areas of the organization because almost every position is sedentary, right? You look at your dispatch, they're sitting for long periods of time. You look at records, you look at detectives, you look at executives like yourself, maybe sitting behind the desk. Patrol is obviously going to be sitting in the car. So there's a lot of sitting. That's obviously going to cause tightness in the upper body. Usually our posture is not the best. And I have to remind myself of this too, because I do sit behind my desk a lot. Also, when it comes to shoulders, a lot of what we do is a forward-facing shoulder position, which is an internal rotation of the shoulder. So it tightens the muscles in the front of your chest and your shoulders, right? And so
Right.
if you take a look at it, it's like if we're typing on our computer, if we're on our cell phone, your shooting position is going to be a forward facing shoulder position. So there's a lot of tightness there. And one of the things that I started to hear is there's been a lot of injuries recently with people getting out of the patrol vehicles in their shoulders. They're trying to get out and they have their hand up and it's like pulling it back, which is really interesting. I've also heard some things about like defensive tactics and shoulder stuff. But to your point about the lower body, I think a lot of people don't understand that everything's interconnected, right? And you mentioned this. You were like, the knees, the hips, the hamstrings, the back, it's all interconnected. And so a lot of times if someone's like, hey, I got back stuff, it's like, okay, well, it could be because of a weak core. It could
Hmm.
be because of tight hips and hamstrings. Um,
Right.
if you have a knee injury, that could be because you had tight hips or tight
Right.
ankles. And so everything is interconnected. And I know you mentioned this before. You said, I didn't have lack of mobility, or I didn't have mobility. You had lack of mobility. Um, do you think that that is maybe the reason for a lot of the injuries is because everyone is so tight and doesn't have that mobility?
Absolutely. I think is a main contributor to that. And
Yeah,
it's commonly overlooked.
I would agree with
So,
you on that. I think,
and
go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
We're gonna go back and forth. I'm like, you go.
I don't even remember what I was going to say now, so it's your turn.
Um, I think my question is, how do we get people? Because I think I think a lot of people do, not everybody, but a lot of people do work out. A lot of people do, try to go to the gym, and there's something that they do, whether it's bike riding, jujitsu, hit classes, CrossFit,
Yeah.
whatever. Um, but not a lot of people, from my experience, focus on their mobility. It's kind of an afterthought. And through my experience, I always live by this because I don't want to be old and immobile. That's not what I want in my life. I don't want to be that old lady who can't stand up straight, who can't move, and then falls and breaks a hip, and then that's it. Like that's not the trajectory I want for my life. And so I have to connect with that because I also work out and I do things to try to, build muscle and become stronger. But I recognize that in order for me to have longevity in my life, I also have to have mobility. You have to have both. Muscle is extremely important, strength is extremely important, but so is mobility. But what I find is that mobility is an afterthought. A lot of people are like, I'm going to lift really heavy. I'm going to build muscles. I want to hit the gym, but don't focus on the warm up or the cool down. How do you think we can get people to be more proactive in prioritizing their mobility so that they don't break?
So I would say we just start preaching it, or we talk about it all the time and remind each other to stretch or to be mobile. But in my experience, unfortunately, people don't really take notice until bad things happen. I mean, I'm a case in point in that where something terrible happened to me, and I said I got a reminder of I have to focus on my mobility. You mentioned CrossFit earlier. I've been a CrossFit athlete for over 10 years, and I recently started going back a year ago. I told my coaches that I'm super tight. I need to stretch, and they're like, "Well, where are you tight at?" So I told my lower back, and I said I got injured because of my hamstrings. So like, okay, that's all connected, right? To your point. And I said, well, yeah, but huh? Like you may be having lower back problems because you're so tight in your legs. So try these stretches. Try this, try that. And I said, oh wow, that really works. Thank you. I
Yeah.
feel way better now. So stretching is and mobility are so important. Besides us constantly reminding each other to stretch and to make it a point, I don't really know how to make it better. Um, Other than somebody being told by somebody other than in these professions, they should do it. Maybe spouses constantly reminding their husband or wife, hey, stretch or something like that.
Yeah. I also think, and I love that someone said that to you because it's true. And I get people all the time that say like, how do I stretch this area? Or they'll be like, hey, my knees are really tight. And I'm like, well, your knees aren't tight. Your hips are tight. And so your knee is twisting. And there's different things that we can look at. But I don't think that that's common knowledge. A lot of people don't understand that. They're like, I feel the pain here. So, like, what can
Right.
we do here? And it's like, well, there's things that we can do there usually, but maybe let's try this first. And um, I think that people think that it's a huge time constraint, and that's one of the pushbacks I always get is that we don't have enough time, right? They're like, we don't have time, and so we're gonna prioritize lifting and, getting our workout in because that's all we have time for. And so one of the things I try to tell everyone is it doesn't have to take a lot of time. Even if you did 5 minutes of mobility before you work out. Do some sort of dynamic mobility, or if you did 5 minutes of passive cool down mobility afterwards, that is, and then there's so much science, you can look it up. But if you do something like dynamic mobility or yoga or stretching before or after, you can reduce your risk of injury by 60%. Just
I
five,
believe that
five
wholeheartedly.
minutes, 5 minutes. And of course, there's
So
there's still going
my
to be pushback on that, but 5 minutes.
course, so what I've experienced when I work out is in the hour or 2 hours people want to work out, make that a part of it. Set aside 15 minutes to do your stretching, your mobility, along with your powerlifting or whatever you're going to do. Um, I think men are the world's worst. They just got to lift heavy weight. I have to be strong. I don't care about anything else. I just want to be strong because if I get in a fight or something on the streets, I want to be able to overpower the bad guy. It's
Yeah.
all well and good. It's good theory, but they forget about the mobility part of it. And then, okay, you have all these muscles, but you can't even reach around to grab something off the back of your belt. You have it there. You have no mobility. So, making that a part of your workout, I think, would be an important thing, and just reminding each other. And if you work out with a buddy or whatever, make that a part of it. And I don't know, I'm not sure how you do your workouts, but I know a lot of people like to take gym selfies. So maybe the 5 minutes that you're taking that selfie, do something instead. Maybe that might help.
I
Maybe
am
we could tell people that.
I'm a big proponent for prioritization of time because I'm also very busy. Everyone's busy. You're never gonna meet anyone for the most part that like isn't busy, right?
Right.
But to your point, you're exactly right. Maybe you can watch one less Netflix show a night. Maybe you can not take that selfie that takes 5 minutes. Or maybe you can do mobility while you're watching that Netflix show.
Sure.
Maybe you can have someone take a selfie of you while you're doing your mobility. I don't know. There's like different ways that you can do it. But I think that it's the prioritization of time. It's building those habits. And I really liked that you said it's great if you can, you know, hold your own on the streets physically. Um, but if you can't reach, if you can't, or if you injure yourself because you're not mobile, then it's really not the most
What's
effective
the
way
point?
to
Jesus.
perform. Yeah, yeah. No, I appreciate that. One of the things you said earlier that I wanted to circle back to was nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
What has been your experience with the challenges of nutrition in this profession?
Again, I'll go back to the shift work. I think that people that work night shifts, unless you are living in a community that has restaurants or whatever that offer healthy options or stores that offer healthy options you can go to, unless you're taking the time to bring your meals with you, it is super hard to eat healthy at a fast food restaurant or a gas station, which that's where a lot of cops hang out. And at night, it's only open.
Yeah.
During the day is a little bit different, but overall, I think maybe I'm older. I've learned these lessons over time, but nutrition is very important. And I wish that it was more stressed more to me when I was younger. Um, it is so easy to eat crap and to get out of shape and to get complacent and have very poor health. So it's tough, but it's doable if that person wants to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that. yeah, it's funny. So I think that it takes education, right? I think it takes awareness and education to understand, what is healthy and what isn't.
Right.
What are some healthier options? Um, you might not have healthy options if you're working graves, but there might be healthier options
Right.
that you can grab towards. And I think that's all about education and awareness, and then being a little bit disciplined in your choices. I was just at a gas station recently. I had family in town, and my cousin's like, I gotta go to the gas station. I gotta get, she had to get her energy drink and her
Right.
flaming hot Cheetos. Like that's her thing. And I
Sure.
was like, okay. And I'm looking around, and it was in a QT. So you guys have QTs out there?
We have some, not in our
Okay.
immediate area, but yeah, we have some.
So it's bigger, right? And they have lots of
Yeah,
different options in there.
they do.
And I was like, wow, like it was very difficult to find fresh choices, to find um nuts that didn't have a ton of salt. Like there was a lot of things that I was looking for, because like this is my realm, and saying like, okay, like what are the healthier things that we can choose? And it is harder, but it's not impossible. I think it's just education, and then a little bit of
This.
discipline. Yeah.
So you hit on something that makes me laugh of people like their energy drinks, especially cops and firefighters. I'm guilty of it also. I love a Ghost energy drink. It gives me focus, but that is one of the most terrible things that we can put in our bodies. I think we all know it. We just accept it as a necessary evil of life to keep going. But I think if things like that were substituted for healthier caffeine options, it would be big step in the right direction. So,
Yeah.
um, now, what that healthier option would be, I have no idea, but something.
Yeah. And I try to be really careful with this platform, and not telling people what to do, but maybe just spreading more awareness of like how you can choose for yourself. Because I think that I've learned over time, and it's even with me, if someone comes up in front of me and they're like, don't do this, I'm like, why? Or like, who are you? Like, I'm going to do what I want. And so I think it's more about, the education and awareness. And I was actually at a first responder conference, and there was someone talking about nutrition, and they did a great presentation. There was nothing wrong with their presentation. Um, but there was one section where they were talking about how bad caffeine is. And they were talking about like maybe don't drink as much coffee. And I just felt the room, and everyone was like, you cannot take away my caffeine. Like because it is, and I drink probably 3 cups a day, and I know that it increases your cortisol. I know that it's, not maybe the best, but I do think that sometimes we have to understand that we're not going to be perfect, and how can you pick and choose so that you can have, a healthier lifestyle for yourself. And I know a lot of people who got off caffeine and they feel great, and more power to them. But I don't
Mhm.
know if I could go through that withdrawal for, however long. And I
I don't
don't
know if I want to go through that withdrawal.
know. And I don't know how you get through a graveyard shift. Like without any, and maybe there are people who do it, I'm sure that there are. But I understand the need. So yeah, I think it's just more education. How can you have a little bit more discipline? How can you make healthier choices for yourself? And I always am an advocate of like, start small. Like, don't try to uproot your entire life with stuff. Like, let's just try, like, from a physical perspective, maybe you can just try 5 minutes right after you're done working out, or
Right.
right before, and just try that and see how that goes. I'm not asking you to do an hour long yoga class every single day of your life. Like maybe we can just do something small. For the nutrition, maybe just one meal a day, you can swap it out for something healthier, or maybe one of those energy drinks, you can try to do something that has maybe some more natural caffeine versus, the synthetic, chemicals or whatever. So I think that if we can do baby steps, that'll create a big impact over time.
I agree with you on that one. And I think that's a very practical way to look at it. Not going all or nothing, but baby steps here and there. For us, I can speak on a little bit of my experiences. We're in what we call food desert. There's not a lot of options And a lot of times it's running up to the gas station a couple miles up the road and grabbing pizza.
Yeah.
I know it's not healthy for me, but it's there and it tastes good. So, but I try to limit that to maybe once a week or something like that, and choose healthier options every other time when
Yep.
I can. Now, you said that you felt the room go, kind of get uptight whenever they said taking away caffeine. I don't know that society would want us off caffeine at this point. Um, the work, the hours of the work are too demanding to not have some sort of stimulant in our body, and obviously we can't do anything illegal. So caffeine is our friend. I think that if we can do healthier options, are great, but um, I think it's seen as just a necessity of life, especially in this life.
Yeah. And I won't get too far into this, but I'm a little bit of a nerd. I like to learn a lot about a lot of different things. And there's actually a history to the introduction of caffeine in society. And it's
Right.
really fascinating. The boost in productivity and the way that we were able to create like a lot of the modern stuff that we see today was because of the introduction of caffeine. So if you look at that, because people were up, they're like, all right, let's go, like go-getters, like let's get it done. And there was a lot of advancement after the introduction of coffee and
I'm a
caffeine.
curious person. I'm gonna have to look that one up and watch that or something.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool. I wanted to maybe highlight some of the things that you guys are doing organizationally for wellness. You had shared a few things with me, but I was hoping maybe you can explain some of the things that you've been prioritizing and that you've seen, make a positive impact in the wellness of your team.
Sure, I'll be happy to cover that. So we're a very small department with limited funding. However, I don't see that as an excuse to not be able to do anything. We got a great relationship with most of our community stakeholders. We have a local gym here that has offered us officers 24-hour access to their gym for minimal cost. And it's open to whoever wants it. We push that out to our officers of, hey, if y'all are interested in this, reach out to them. You're more than welcome to go. Matter of fact, it's encouraged if you're working here, as long as you keep your radio on and we can hear calls, go work out while you're at work. I don't care. Do something. That's fine with me. Um, we encourage work-life balance. Um, I'm I'm a very easy to get along with chief, to where if my officers need some time off, I just ask they let me know about it and we can work it out. Now, if something comes up last minute they need off, then yeah, we'll work it out and we'll get them off, especially family emergencies, because I like the philosophy of families first, period, end of story. If you don't take care of yourself and your family, you're not going to take care of us when we need you. So you have to have the home life focused and locked in before you can take care of other people in this town. So family's always first for me, and I strive to give officers a lot more autonomy. We have a lot more in this job as it is, but I like them to have more. And I don't take that away until they show me that can't trust them with that.
Yeah.
So we have flexibility with some uniform options. I give them a lot of autonomy and encourage them to work out and to go work out with their own duty. And the work life balance thing, I think, is important in what we do here.
Awesome. Yeah, I think one of the conversations that's come up a lot is the importance of time off.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of organizations are starting to recognize that you need time away from the job. And there's plenty of opportunities to work, especially with a lot of organizations that, are struggling with staffing shortages, and there's plenty of overtime opportunities. But to have the opportunity to disconnect and to prioritize friends and family and interests outside of the job has become really an integrated piece of wellness, I know, for a lot of organizations. So I really like that you're focusing on that and trying to prioritize that.
Yeah, I think it's very important. And unfortunately, I've learned that from negative experiences. So now I get the chance to try to make the difference that I want to see in the profession, starting with the department that I run.
I think that's one of the best parts of adversity is that you're able to take that and you're able to make a difference because you know what it's like to have the opposite. And
And
even though it's not fun to have to experience some of those things, a lot of the things I've been through in my life, I'm now grateful for because I do think it's an opportunity to make a difference, and the things that you shared with me today, like the challenges with physical injury, the challenges with nutrition and not having the best options or maybe education on that, not having time off throughout your career that maybe you wanted or needed to prioritize your family and your home life. All of that is now your opportunity as a leader to prioritize that for other people and to educate other people so that their lives and their careers can be better.
Right. And I'm very big on that. I'm one of the most important things I feel as a leader, and one of the things I love to see are to grow my employees, to see them grow in the profession, grow in their lives, and achieve things, achieve milestones. And I want them to be there for their families. I don't want them to miss holidays and birthdays if they don't have to. Um, I came up doing that, and it was just part of the job, and it still is. But if we can make it work where they can be with their family and be with there for those important times in life, then that we want to do that.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
that's big. I think that's very important.
What words of wisdom would you share with individuals who are earlier in their career? Maybe something that you wish you would have known or something that you've learned along the way that could help them out.
So there's a couple things there, and we've already hit on some big ones. Of make your mental health and your physical health top priorities,
Mhm.
and that goes along with take care of you, and then take care of your family. Then the department, the agency, whatever, it'll be there. The job's going to be there, but take care of you and take care of your family, because if you're not taking care of you and your family, you can't take care of everybody else. And we don't want to see anybody suffer. Take your time. If you're going to make this a career, it's going to be a marathon, not a sprint. And be very selective on those that you decide to trust. Um, Cops are human beings also. We're very flawed into people, and we've got a lot of negative attributes about us. So be very selective on who you decide to trust. You don't have to be like that one charismatic officer that you think is the greatest thing ever. Maybe they're not, but judge people on your experiences, not what you hear from in the rumor mill or what other people say.
Mm.
Um, I think that causes a lot of animosity that doesn't need to be in the profession. If people learn to judge people off of their own experiences and not other people's, I
Yeah,
think that's the three most important things I can think of.
thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, I appreciate the whole thing, but I've never had someone say that on here before. Judge people based on your experience that you have with them. I think that is an important reminder for everybody, not just law enforcement. I think everybody, I think that oftentimes we do let other people's opinions influence our opinions, and maybe that's not the experience that we had. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate your time coming on here and talking about wellness. And if there's anything we missed, I'll let you kind of say any final words. But
Put me on the spot. Well, first of all, I really enjoyed this opportunity. I really appreciate you having me and us on your podcast, your channel. Being that we're a small agency in North Carolina on the other side of the country, I think it's really cool to get this opportunity to talk to you about this very important topic. And I only hope that our conversation maybe can help or inspire somebody else that maybe see this down the road, and maybe make some good changes or have a different outlook on their career than what they had before.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate your time so much, and we'll definitely keep in touch.
Sounds good. I really appreciate it.
Of course.